New Delhi has issued a notice to Islamabad seeking modification of the more than 6-decade-old Indus Waters Treaty. The Indus Waters Treaty governs the sharing of waters of 6 rivers in the Indus system between India and Pakistan. New Delhi said that the notice follows Pakistan's continued intransigence in implementing the treaty by raising repeated objections on the construction of hydel projects on the Indian side. The notice sent on January 25th through the Commissioner of Indus Waters gives Pakistan 90 days to consider entering into intergovernmental negotiations to rectify the material breach of the treaty. Now, what is the history of the dispute over the hydel projects? 2 hydroelectric power projects are currently being constructed by India, one on the Kishan-Ganga River, a tributary of Jhelum, and another on the Chenab. Pakistan has raised objections to these projects, and dispute resolution mechanisms under the treaty have been invoked multiple times. However, a full resolution has still not been reached. In 2015, Pakistan asked that a neutral expert should be appointed to examine its technical objections. But the following year, Pakistan unilaterally retracted this request and proposed that a court of arbitration should adjudicate on its objections. In August 2016, Pakistan approached the World Bank, which had brokered the 1960 treaty. Pakistan sought the constitution of the Court of Arbitration under the relevant dispute redressal provision of the treaty. Instead of responding to Pakistan's request for a court of arbitration, India moved a separate application asking for the appointment of a neutral expert, which is the lower level of dispute resolution provided in the treaty. India had argued that Pakistan's request for a court of arbitration violated the graded mechanism of the dispute resolution in the treaty. In between, a significant event had happened which had consequences for the treaty. A Pakistan-backed terror attack on Uri in September 2016 had prompted calls within India to walk out of Indus Waters Treaty, which makes a significantly bigger share of the 6 river waters to Pakistan. The Prime Minister had famously said that blood and water could not flow together, and India had suspended routine biannual talks between the Indus commissioners of the 2 countries. Now, coming back to the 2 applications moved by Pakistan and India. The World Bank, the third party to the treaty, and the acknowledged arbiter of disputes was, meanwhile, faced with a unique situation of having received 2 separate requests for the same dispute. On December 12, 2016, the World Bank had announced a pause in the separate processes initiated by India and Pakistan under the Indus Waters Treaty to allow the 2 countries to consider alternative ways to resolve their disagreements. The regular meetings of the Indus Waters Commissioners resumed in 2017, and India tried to use these to find mutually agreeable solutions between 2017 and 2022. Pakistan, however, refused to discuss these issues at these meetings. At Pakistan's continued insistence, the World Bank in March last year initiated actions on the requests of both India and Pakistan. On October 19, 2022, the Ministry of External Affairs noted the concurrent appointment of a neutral expert and a chair of Court of Arbitration, but said that carrying out 2 processes concurrently poses practical and legal challenges. Such parallel consideration of same issues is not provided for in any provisions of the treaty, and India has been repeatedly citing the possibility of the 2 processes delivering contradictory rulings, which could lead to an unprecedented and legally untenable situation, which is unforeseen in treaty provisions. Now let's talk about what exactly is the dispute redressal mechanism laid down under the treaty. The dispute redressal mechanism provided under Article 12 of IWT is a graded mechanism. So whenever India plans to start a project under the Indus Waters Treaty, it has to inform Pakistan that it is planning to build a project. Pakistan might oppose it and ask for more details. That would mean there is a question. And in case there is a question, that question has to be clarified between the 2 sides at the level of Indus commissioners. If that difference is not resolved by them, then the level is raised. The question then becomes a difference. That difference is to be resolved by another set mechanism, which is the neutral expert. It is at this stage that the World Bank comes into the picture. In case the neutral expert says that they are not able to resolve the difference or that the issue needs an interpretation of the treaty, then the difference becomes a dispute. It then goes to the 3rd stage, the Court of Arbitration. To sum it up, it's a very graded and sequential mechanism. First Commissioner, then neutral expert, and only then the court of arbitration. Now, what is India's notice about and what are its implications here onward? While the immediate provocation for the modification is to address the issue of two parallel mechanisms, at this point the implications of India's notice for modifying the treaty are not very clear. The third subpart of Article 12 of the treaty that India has invoked is not a dispute redressal mechanism. It is in effect a provision to amend the treaty. India has not spelled out exactly what it wants modified in the treaty. But over the last years, especially since the Uri attack, there has been a growing demand in India to use the Indus Waters Treaty as a strategic tool, considering that India has a natural advantage being the upper riparian state.